I found a camera in my bedroom, not obvious, not something you'd notice walking in. It was hidden inside the smoke detector on my ceiling, pointed directly at my bed. Recording everything. Streaming everything. For 11 months, and the person watching? Someone I trusted. Someone I paid rent to every month. Someone who had keys to my apartment and used them when I wasn't home. By the time I discovered what he'd done, there were 480 gigabytes of footage. Of me. Of my most private moments. Of things nobody should ever see without permission. This is the story of how I found that camera. What happened when I checked who was watching. And how one discovery led to uncovering a network of predators doing the same thing to hundreds of people across 6 states. It started 3 months before I found the camera. Small things. Things I told myself I was imagining. I'd come home from work and my bedroom door would be open. Just slightly. Maybe an inch. I always closed it completely. My cat liked to sleep on my bed and I didn't want him shedding on my clean sheets when I was gone. But some days, the door would be cracked open. Maybe I forgot, I told myself. Maybe I was rushing. Then I noticed my dresser drawer. The one where I kept underwear and bras. It would be slightly open too. Not much. Just enough that you'd see it if you were looking. But I was meticulous about closing drawers. I hated the look of an open drawer. It bothered me aesthetically. Maybe the drawer swelled, I thought. Old building. Humidity. Then my cat started acting strange. Milo was a 3-year-old tabby, generally lazy, spent most of his time sleeping in sunbeams. But about 2 months before I found the camera, he started doing something weird. He'd sit in the middle of my bedroom and stare at the ceiling. Not at a bug. Not at a shadow. Just stare. For minutes at a time. His pupils would dilate. His tail would twitch. I took a video and sent it to my friend Rachel, who had 2 cats. Is this normal? I texted. She replied, maybe he sees something you don't. Cats have better vision in low light. Could be a bug or something moving. I checked the ceiling. Nothing. No bugs. No cracks. No movement. Just smooth white paint and a smoke detector that had been there when I moved in 11 months ago. The smoke detector. White plastic. Round. With a small red light that blinked every 30 seconds to show it was working. I'd tested it once when I moved in, pressed the button, it beeped, I was satisfied. Never thought about it again, but the feeling persisted. That uncomfortable sensation that someone was watching. You know the feeling, when the hair on your neck stands up for no reason. When you turn around expecting to see someone and there's nobody there. When you change clothes and find yourself rushing, covering up faster than normal, without understanding why. I told myself I was being paranoid. I lived alone. The building was secure. I had good locks. My landlord, Alan, was a nice older man, maybe 60-something, who owned 3 units in the building including mine. He'd helped me move in. Fixed my leaky faucet within 24 hours of me reporting it, brought cookies during the holidays. He seemed harmless. Grandfatherly, but the feeling didn't go away. 2 months after the strange feeling started, I had lunch with my friend Sarah. She worked in cybersecurity for a tech company downtown. We were eating Thai food at a place near her office when she mentioned something casually, almost as an afterthought. You know what's terrifying, she said, scrolling through her phone while waiting for our food. Hidden cameras are so cheap now. Like, anyone can buy them. $15 on Amazon. And they're getting smaller. Some of them are disguised as phone chargers, USB drives, smoke detectors. My fork stopped halfway to my mouth. Wait. Smoke detectors? She looked up. Yeah. It's actually genius from a hiding perspective. Nobody ever looks at smoke detectors. They're on the ceiling, out of sight, already have a small light that people expect to see. Perfect place to hide a camera lens. There's this whole problem with Airbnbs right now, hosts installing cameras in bedrooms and bathrooms. It's sick. How would you even know if there was one? I asked, trying to keep my voice casual. There are apps. They detect camera lenses by looking for the infrared reflection. Or you can just use your phone flashlight and look for a glint. Camera lenses reflect light differently than regular plastic. Why? She looked at me more carefully. You okay? You look pale. I'm fine, I lied. That's creepy. I never thought about that. It's more common than you think, Sarah said. The FBI released statistics last year. Thousands of cases annually. Most victims never find the cameras. And even when they do, it's hard to prove who installed them unless there's clear footage of the person doing it. I couldn't eat the rest of my lunch. My mind was racing. The smoke detector in my bedroom. The one Milo kept staring at. The one that had been there when I moved in, already installed, already positioned directly above my bed. What's the name of that app? I asked. The one that detects cameras. Sarah told me. I downloaded it before we even left the restaurant. I waited until Friday night. I don't know why Friday, maybe because if I found something, I'd have the weekend to deal with it. Maybe because I was too scared to check immediately and needed a few days to build up the courage. I got home from work at 6:30 p.m. fed Milo. Made myself dinner that I didn't eat. Waited until it was fully dark outside. Then I turned off all the lights in my apartment. The app instructions said darkness was important. Camera lenses reflect light differently than other surfaces, but you can only see it clearly when everything else is dark. I turned on my phone's flashlight and opened the app. Started with the bathroom. Swept the light slowly across the mirror. The towel rack. The shower curtain rod. The ceiling fan. Nothing. The app stayed silent. Checked the living room. The TV. The bookshelf. The smoke detector in there, exactly like the one in my bedroom, but the app showed nothing. Just normal plastic. Moved to the kitchen. Nothing. Then my bedroom. My hands were shaking. I told myself this was stupid. I was being paranoid. There was nothing there. I checked the dresser first. The mirror. The nightstand. The lamp. Nothing. Then I pointed my phone at the ceiling. The smoke detector was directly above my bed, maybe 7 feet up. White plastic. Small red light blinking steadily. I aimed the flashlight at it. The app exploded with sound. A loud, insistent beeping. Red text flashed on my screen. Lens detected. Camera likely present. My stomach dropped. I actually felt dizzy. Had to sit down on the bed. Then I realized what I'd just done. I'd sat on the bed that this thing had been filming. For how long? Since I moved in? That was 11 months ago. I stood up fast. Too fast. Nearly fell over. Milo was sitting in the corner of the room, staring at the smoke detector like he'd been trying to tell me all along. I dragged a chair from the kitchen into my bedroom. Climbed up carefully. My hands were still shaking so badly I had to grip the chair back to steady myself. Up close, the smoke detector looked normal. White plastic casing. The little red light. The test button. But now that I was looking, really looking, I could see something else. A tiny black dot in the center of the device. Smaller than a pencil eraser. It could have been a sensor. It could have been a screw hole dot, or it could have been a camera lens. I touched the smoke detector casing. It twisted easily, too easily. Like it had been removed and replaced recently. Like someone had been accessing it. I unscrewed it completely and pulled it down. The weight was wrong. Smoke detectors are light, just plastic and a small battery. This one was heavier. I turned it over in my hands. That's when I saw it. Inside the hollow casing, nestled against the fake battery compartment, was a small circuit board. And attached to that board was a camera. Tiny. Maybe the size of a coin. With a lens pointing downward, exactly where my bed would be. There was also a small memory card slot. And next to it, barely visible, a tiny Wi-Fi antenna. This wasn't just recording locally. This was transmitting. I felt bile rise in my throat. Stumbled off the chair. stood in the middle of my bedroom holding this thing in my shaking hands, staring at the tiny black lens that had been watching me for God knows how long, watching me sleep, watching me change clothes. Watching me in my most private moments. Watching everything. I wanted to smash it. Throw it against the wall. Destroy it, but something Sarah had said at lunch stopped me. Even when they do find cameras, it's hard to prove who installed them unless there's clear footage. Evidence. I needed evidence. I set the camera down carefully on my dresser. Backed away from it like it might explode. And called 911. The 911 operator was professional, but I could hear the shift in her tone when I explained what I'd found. Ma'am, do not touch the device anymore. Officers are being dispatched to your location. Do you feel safe in your apartment right now? Did I feel safe? I'd never feel safe again. I don't know, I said honestly. The camera was transmitting. Someone could be watching right now. Someone could know I found it. Is there somewhere else you can wait? A friend's apartment? The lobby? I grabbed Milo, shoved him in his carrier, took the camera carefully wrapped in a dish towel, and went downstairs to the building lobby. Sat on the bench by the mailboxes. My whole body was shaking. A neighbor walked by, Mrs. Chen from 2B, and asked if I was okay. I'm fine, I lied. Again, the police arrived 14 minutes later. 2 officers. 1 male, mid-30s, named Officer Torres. 1 female, maybe late 20s, named Officer Park. I showed them the camera. Explained how I found it. Told them it had been hidden in my bedroom ceiling for at least 11 months. Officer Park's expression darkened. You said this was installed when you moved in? You didn't put it there? No. It was already there. I thought it was just a normal smoke detector. Who has keys to your apartment? Just me. And my landlord, Alan Reeves. He owns the building. Well, he owns 3 units including mine. The officers exchanged a look. Officer Torres bagged the camera as evidence. Took photos of my bedroom. Asked detailed questions about Alan, how often he came to the apartment, whether he'd ever made me uncomfortable, whether I'd noticed anything else strange. I told them about the open doors. The open drawer. The feeling of being watched. How old is your landlord? Officer Park asked. I don't know exactly, maybe 65? He seems like a nice older man. He brought me cookies at Christmas. Another exchanged look between the officers. We're going to need to take a statement from him, Officer Torres said. And we'll need to examine the camera. It looks like it has Wi-Fi capability, which means someone was accessing the feed remotely. We can trace the IP address. How long will that take? Could be a few days. Could be a week. Depends on the tech. Officer Park handed me her card. In the meantime, I'd recommend staying somewhere else. If this camera was transmitting and someone realizes you found it, they might escalate. Do you have family nearby? Friends? I nodded. Rachel had already texted me. I'd messaged her right before calling 911. She said I could stay with her as long as I needed. One more thing, Officer Torres said. You mentioned your landlord owns 3 units. Do you know who lives in the other 2? There's a young woman in 3A. I think her name is Emma. And a couple in 3C. I don't know their names. We'll need to check those apartments too. I stayed at Rachel's apartment that weekend. Barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that tiny black lens. Thought about everything it had recorded. Everything someone had seen. Rachel tried to help. Made me tea. Let me talk through it over and over. But there was nothing she could say that made it better. The worst part, I told her on Sunday night, is not knowing how long. Not knowing what they saw, not knowing who it was. The police will find out, Rachel said. They can trace the IP address. They'll know who was accessing the feed. Monday afternoon, I got a call from a detective. Detective Sarah Morrison, Special Victims Unit. Ms. Reeves, we've completed the initial analysis of the camera you found. I need to meet with you in person. Are you available this afternoon? The formal tone scared me. Did you find something? I'd rather discuss this in person. Can you come to the precinct? I met Detective Morrison at 4 p.m. She was maybe 40, with short dark hair and the tired eyes of someone who'd seen too much. She led me to a small interview room and closed the door. Ms. Reeves, I'm going to be direct with you because you deserve to know what we've found. The camera you discovered had active Wi-Fi transmission. We traced the IP address of the device accessing the feed. My heart was pounding. Who was it? The feed was being accessed from an IP address registered to Alan Reeves. Your landlord. I felt the room tilt. Alan? But he's just a nice old man. He helped me move in. He fixed my faucet. Men who do this are often people who seem trustworthy, Detective Morrison said gently. That's how they gain access. Ms. Reeves, there's more. We obtained a warrant to search Mr. Reeves' residence. We found an external hard drive with significant amounts of video footage. How much? For 80 gigabytes. The footage dates back 11 months, to when you moved in. But Ms. Reeves, you weren't the only victim. We found footage from 3 separate apartments. All bedrooms. All with cameras hidden in smoke detectors positioned above the beds. 3 apartments. 3 victims. All of us living in units owned by Alan. All of us thinking we were safe in our own homes. Who are the others? I asked. A 24-year-old woman in 3A. Emily. She's been living there for 8 months. And a married couple in 3C, James and Monica Torres, living there for just over a year. Do they know? We're informing them today. That's actually why I needed to speak with you first. This is going to become a multi-victim case, and it's going to attract media attention. I wanted you to be prepared. Was there anything else? Besides the bedroom cameras? Detective Morrison's expression got darker. We found cameras in all 3 bathrooms as well. Hidden in the ventilation fans. Mr. Reeves had organized the footage into folders by tenant and date. The forensic team is still processing everything, but what we've seen so far. Ms. Reeves, he was watching obsessively. Multiple times per day. The access logs show he viewed the feeds hundreds of times. I thought I might throw up. What happens now? Mr. Reeves was arrested this morning. He's being charged with multiple felony counts, invasion of privacy for each victim, production of non-consensual pornographic material, illegal electronic surveillance. He's being held without bail. Did he say anything? Did he admit it? Initially, he tried to claim he had the right to monitor his property. When we showed him the evidence, he changed his story. Said he never touched anyone. That he only looked. That no one was harmed. Detective Morrison asked if I wanted to see the interrogation footage. Said it might help with closure. Or it might make things worse. She'd leave it up to me. I watched it. Alan sat in a gray interrogation room, hands folded on the table. He looked smaller than I remembered. Older. Tired. But not remorseful. The detective questioning him, a different one, male, middle-aged, laid out the evidence methodically. The cameras. The hard drive. The organized folders. The hundreds of access logs. Alan's lawyer, a woman in her 50s with a severe expression, tried to intervene multiple times but Alan kept talking. I never touched any of them, he said. His voice was defensive. Almost whiny. I never went in their apartments when they were there. I never harmed anyone. You violated their privacy for months, the detective said. You recorded them in their most intimate moments without their knowledge or consent. You're trying to tell me that's not harm? I own the property. I have a right to know what's happening in my buildings. You have cameras pointed at their beds. At their bathrooms. You have footage of them undressed, showering, being intimate with partners. That's not property management, Mr. Reeves. That's voyeurism. That's a crime. Alan's expression shifted, became defensive. Do you know how many landlords do this? How many Airbnb hosts? How many hotel managers? It's more common than people think. That doesn't make it legal. I never shared the footage. I never sold it. It was just for me. Just for you, the detective repeated. You watched these women who trusted you, who paid you rent, who thought they were safe in their homes, you watched them without their knowledge. For your own gratification. Alan didn't respond to that. Just looked at his hands. That's when they played the video that made me turn off the recording. They showed Alan footage from his computer, access logs showing him watching the feeds. The timestamps showed he'd watch sometimes for hours. Multiple times a day. Early morning, late at night, the detective asked him directly, why? Alan finally looked up. His expression was something between shame and defiance. Because I could, he said. Because they didn't know. Because it was easy. That was the moment I realized he didn't feel guilty. He felt caught. The case moved forward quickly. Alan's lawyer tried to negotiate a plea deal. Maybe he'd plead guilty to reduce charges, serve minimal time, avoid the sex offender registry. The DA refused. Said this was exactly the kind of case that needed to set a precedent. Emma, the 24-year-old from 3A, and Monica Torres from 3C both gave statements. All three of us testified about the violation. About the feeling of being watched that we'd all experienced but dismissed. About the trust we'd placed in a man who used that trust as a weapon. The evidence was overwhelming. The cameras. The hard drive. The access logs. Alan's own statements during interrogation. He was convicted on all counts. 3 counts of invasion of privacy, 1 for each victim. Production of non-consensual pornographic material. Illegal electronic surveillance with intent to violate privacy. Multiple counts of voyeurism. The sentence, 12 years in state prison. Permanent registration as a sex offender. $200,000 in restitution to each victim, $600,000 total, but that wasn't enough. Not for me. Emma, Monica, James, and I filed a civil lawsuit against Alan for emotional distress, violation of privacy, and property damages. We argued that living in those apartments after discovering what he'd done was impossible, that we'd suffered psychological harm. That we deserved more than what the criminal case provided. The civil case was faster. Alan's assets were frozen. He owned the building, 3 units worth roughly $900,000 combined. He had retirement savings. He had investments. The judge ruled in our favor. Awarded us the 3 apartments as additional compensation. Split them evenly. I got my unit, 3B, Emma got hers, 3A, and Monica and James got theirs, 3C. Alan lost everything. His property. His money. His freedom. His reputation. I sold my apartment immediately. Couldn't stay there. Couldn't sleep in that bedroom knowing what had happened. Used the money to move to a different city. Started therapy. Tried to rebuild, but 3 years later, I still check every smoke detector in any place I stay, still sleep with the lights on sometimes. Still feel that creeping sensation of being watched even when I'm completely alone. The violation doesn't end when the camera is removed. It stays with you. 3 years after finding the camera, I got a call from Detective Morrison. She'd been promoted to lead investigator for a new cybercrime task force. She asked if I could come in for a meeting. We've reopened Alan Reeves' case, she said when I arrived at the precinct. Something came up during a separate investigation. She showed me financial records. Bank statements. PayPal transactions. We were investigating an online network trafficking hidden camera footage, hotel rooms, rental properties, private residences. During that investigation, we found transactions linked to Alan Reeves. He was receiving monthly payments. $500 per month from an encrypted account. My blood went cold. He was selling the footage? Not exactly. He was providing access. We traced the account. It belonged to someone who was paying for a subscription to view the camera feeds in real time. Alan wasn't just watching you for himself. He had a customer. I felt sick. Do you know who it was? We're still working on identifying them. The account used sophisticated encryption and routing. But we did find something else. That subscriber wasn't unique to Alan. They had subscriptions to 47 other camera feeds, different properties, different cities. All the same setup: smoke detectors, bathroom vents, hidden cameras in rental properties. 47? That's just what we've traced so far. We believe this is part of a much larger network. Landlords, property managers, Airbnb hosts, all installing cameras, all selling access to the same subscriber group. We're talking hundreds of victims across 6 states. Detective Morrison pulled up a map on her computer. Red dots scattered across Oregon, Washington, California, Nevada, Idaho, and Montana. Each dot represented a property where hidden cameras had been found. We're working with the FBI now, building cases against every property owner involved. But it's going to take time. These networks are sophisticated. They use encryption, offshore servers, cryptocurrency payments. It's not just one guy with a camera anymore. It's organized. What can I do? Would you be willing to testify again? If we bring federal charges against the network organizers, victim testimony will be crucial. Your case with Alan was local, this would be federal. I didn't hesitate. Yes. The federal investigation took 2 years. During that time, I did something I never thought I'd do. I became an activist. I joined a support group for victims of hidden camera surveillance. Met people from across the country who'd experienced the same violation. Some found cameras in Airbnbs. Some in hotel rooms. Some, like me, in their own apartments. All of us shared the same trauma, the feeling that our most private moments had been stolen, that we'd never be truly alone again. I started speaking publicly about what happened. Gave interviews to news outlets. Testified before state legislatures about the need for stronger laws against hidden camera surveillance. Most states had laws against voyeurism. But the penalties were minimal, often just misdemeanors. Fines. Probation. Maybe a year in county jail. Nothing that reflected the severity of the crime. I lobbied for change. Pushed for mandatory minimum sentences. For automatic sex offender registry. For stricter penalties for anyone who produced, distributed, or purchased hidden camera footage. Oregon was the first to listen. In 2024, Oregon passed what became known as Olivia's Law. The legislation made residential surveillance with hidden cameras a mandatory minimum 10-year felony. Anyone convicted would automatically be registered as a sex offender. Anyone found producing or distributing footage would face additional charges with sentences up to 25 years. The law also required landlords to disclose any surveillance devices on rental properties and established a victim compensation fund financed by civil asset forfeiture from convicted offenders. It wasn't perfect. But it was a start. Other states began following Oregon's lead. Washington passed similar legislation. Then California. Then Nevada. The federal case finally concluded in 2025. 14 property owners across 6 states were charged with racketeering, production and distribution of non-consensual pornography, and wire fraud. The network organizers, the people running the subscription service, were charged with sex trafficking and organized crime. All of them were convicted. I testified at 3 of the trials. Faced the people who'd paid to watch me in my own bedroom. Looked them in the eye and told them exactly what they'd taken from me. One of them, a man in his 50s, well-dressed, unremarkable, said during sentencing that he didn't think it was real. That he thought the footage was staged. That he didn't know he was watching real people. The judge didn't buy it. Neither did I. It's been 5 years since I found that camera. Alan Reeves is still in prison. He'll be eligible for parole in 2031. I've already written a letter to the parole board explaining why he should serve his full sentence. The subscriber who paid to watch me was sentenced to 15 years. He'll be out in 2034. I've moved 3 times since leaving Portland. Each time, the first thing I do in a new place is sweep for cameras. I found 2 more, one in an Airbnb in Seattle, one in a hotel room in San Francisco. Both times, I reported them. Both times, the owners were prosecuted. I still go to therapy. Still struggle with feeling safe in private spaces. Still check smoke detectors obsessively, but I also helped change the law in 4 states. Helped convict a network of predators who violated hundreds of people, gave other victims a voice when they thought no one would believe them. That camera took something from me that I'll never fully get back. But I made sure it didn't take everything. I made sure that what happened to me would be harder to happen to others. If you're renting an apartment, staying in an Airbnb, or checking into a hotel room, do this: turn off the lights. Use your phone flashlight. Check every smoke detector, every USB charger, every clock, every picture frame, every vent. Look for tiny holes. Look for unusual reflections. Download a camera detection app. They're not perfect, but they help. Trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, if you feel watched, if things seem slightly off, investigate, and if you find something, don't touch it more than necessary. Call police immediately. Preserve evidence. Report it. What happened to me can happen to anyone. But it doesn't have to keep happening, because predators rely on silence. On victims being too scared or ashamed to speak up. On people not knowing to look. I looked. I found it. I fought back, and if it happens to you, I hope you do the same. If hidden cameras scare you, drop checking tonight in the comments. If you've ever found one, drop survivor. And subscribe, because I have more stories about people who discovered things they weren't supposed to find, and what they did next.